In 2010, I published an article in the Journal of Science in Parliament entitled "A Gap in the Innovation Market." I was at the time a Vice President of the UK Parliamentary and Scientific Committee. I wrote the article because I had over a number of years become vexed by an issue that remains an issue still today, nearly 15 years later. At the time, I wrote this: I am constantly amazed that despite the importance of the market in all other aspects of UK politics and economics, how little influence it appears to have in debates about scientific innovation and the organisation of our research base. The market seems to have only a very limited role in our nation's innovation process, which is very much science supply-led rather than market demand-led. The market appears to be viewed only as a beneficiary of outputs of a process which may or may not meet particular market opportunities, rather than the main driver of demand for specific scientific innovations. I am not alone in holding such views, but the startling fact is that someone else who shared my concern was an economist writing back in 1966. And that economist was Jacob Schmookler. Now more widely accepted by economists, the view of Jacob Schmookler confirming the link between market needs as a driver of innovation have not still found their way into mainstream science and research, particularly with regard to the public sector. It can be, and it is right to argue, that industry research is certainly geared up to take into account markets and demand, but often also companies look to steer a market and regulations in the direction of its products and services as much as designing them to meet the needs and specifications of their end users. The market is, should be, and needs to be a driver of innovation, since opportunities for innovations do not just arise from science alone, or are not just science or technology led, but rather opportunities derive from problems or gaps in the market. They can be market-led innovation. It is as if we're looking at a singular one-way process from scientific research to technology and eventually bringing a benefit to an unspecified market without even considering that research carried out at the market end can also deliver opportunities through identifying genuine market gaps. This would imply that research into markets will identify emerging trends, problems, gaps, opportunities for which scientific solutions are required. But no one undertakes that research into markets. This is the counter to scientific research, exploring gaps in scientific knowledge. But where is the Public Research Institute undertaking market research to identify opportunities for market-led innovation? Everybody has a notion of market, but who really studies, creates structures, topologies, and undertakes analyses to search for gaps and opportunities? Commercial companies certainly produce analyses, but these are aimed at informing other businesses with data price tags to match, and they're not necessarily looking for gaps or needs or asking what specifications of product, service, or process, what the requirements needed to fill those gaps. If we think of innovation being set between two complementary capacities and resources, one of science and the other of market, in each case both an input for and an output of the other, then why would we pursue only a single route of science supply-led innovation? Science can be led by the market and be a beneficiary of opportunities generated by the market. The market should not be regarded as some distant receptacle in receipt of a votive offering from science, and worse, not even an appropriate offering from the market. A simple conclusion that can be drawn from such a consideration is that billions are annually spent on one kind of input, scientific research, in order to deliver innovation to the market. But only minuscule amounts of public sector money by comparison is dedicated to the search and research of markets for innovation. If market gaps and opportunities can be identified and the scientific research needed to deliver a solution or meet a need in the market, if the technical specifications of that need can be identified, then the research problem can be designed specifically to meet that need. In such a scenario, a single discipline approach to designing a solution is less likely, as we then encourage true interdisciplinarity in collaborative projects and collaborative efforts with each discipline making a targeted contribution needed as a component of an overall solution. Such an approach gives greater meaning and purpose to interdisciplinary research and focuses research effort on delivery of relevant inputs from each party. Who could argue that such an approach is not required?